Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Chris Randone as we get ready for a holiday Monday that is wall-to-wall basketball. Starting at 2 o'clock Eastern, we have three games. We have one at 2, one at 2:30, and one at 3. We then have 6 games at 5, and then at 7:30 there are another 5 games. So the sites all got together and said, let's see how we can confuse all of our content providers. So DraftKings, which is what we're going to talk about, are running their first main slate starting at 2 o'clock. They're doing those 9 games. FanDuel and Yahoo, not to be outdone, said, hey, we're going to do a main slate at 5, but we're not going to focus just on those 6 games at 5. We're going to run it through the end of the slate. And then DraftKings is coming back at 7:30, and they're going to have a second main slate. So we literally have wall-to-wall basketball. But I do want to point out that we are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy, and you're going to want to go over there as soon as I tell you this, because if you go over there right now, they have a special contest, $10 entry fee, 20 entry max that has an extra $25,000 that they are putting in to the prize pool. So it's a it's a $50,000 of your money and my money is going to go in there, and they're putting in another 25,000 for 75,000 total. 20 entry max, $10 per, 5,000 total entries. I've already put my entries in. There's 1,700 in. That's gone up 100 since I saw this contest about an hour ago. So don't dilly-dally on that one. They also have a management fee free contest for Monday. That is a $3 contest. It is single entry. It is about half full right now. So they have a lot of good deals over there. Check them out. We'll talk about their pricing and some other ways where you can get some bonus money from Yahoo. But I'm joined by Chris Randone. Chris, how's it been? It's we actually got to do a midweek podcast as I was covering for Dan Strafford. We traded some shows around here. How are you doing? We've got another weekend under our belt, and it's 2 weeks until the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. Today was fun. Good, two great games. I'm actually kind of excited to see the Super Bowl. One really great defense against a very potent offense, and I think Jimmy G is going to have to throw more than 8 times. Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever seen that, man. 8 times in today's era in a national championship game. It's like, wow. I was a little blown away by that, but Mostert almost had broke the record in rushing. Didn't expect that either. Yeah, man, I'm excited. How about you?
It was crazy. This time it was Tevin Coleman's turn to be injured, so he replaced Mostert last week. Got 3 touchdowns. Mostert was the lead back, and Coleman got it looked like an arm injury of some sort, forearm or something like that. I haven't seen the final end of game report, but I suspect he'll be back for the Super Bowl. I don't know that again because I haven't seen anything. But Mostert, not to watch the other guy get 3 touchdowns last week. He had 4 today himself. Ran for over 200 yards. Phenomenal performance by all counts there. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens when the early lines come out, but it should be a lot of fun. Don't forget, we do have the Pro Bowl in between, and both DraftKings and FanDuel will be having contests for that, so you'll want to check that out. The other thing I noticed, tennis, the Australian Open, it must be. We've got several free tennis articles on our homepage, both from a betting perspective as well as for a DFS perspective. So you're going to want to check that out for the Australian Open. I actually entered some contests today that are going on right now. Remember, Australia is about a dozen hours ahead, or well, I guess depending on where you are in the US, it's between 9 and 12 hours ahead. So check that out. We got all sorts of content, but we're going to loop back in here, talk a little basketball. We're going to go by position. We'll utilize DraftKings since we are looking at their 9 games. We're going to set those 5 late games aside. We are going to have 3 other shows, and I'll tell you, 2 of them are at special time, so we'll talk about that a little further on here. But Chris, what do you like here? Point guard position here over on the old DK. Some interesting names, some familiar names. Russell Westbrook taking on his old team once again. What do you got here for us?
Man, first off, it's a little confusing because we got 2 main slates tomorrow, which is wild. And I don't think have we ever had 2 main slates in one day?
The only time I ever really remember it happening is kind of baseball because they tend to have afternoon games. So for basketball, not to the extent that we're seeing now. Before it was used to be there as they've as the MLK holiday and basketball have kind of become one and the same here, they have expanded the number of early games that they have. I remember back 20-25 years ago, there was like maybe one, maybe two early NBA games, but it was always our local high schools would when I lived in Seattle, they would play their rivals that weren't in the same size classification, and there would be
Yeah.
exhibition games. Like so in Seattle, there's two different leagues for the medium schools and for the really big schools, the inner city schools. So it was kind of fun, or those within the confines of the city limit. So it was always fun. I went and saw a few of those, but my God, we're talking like 25 years ago. The internet really wasn't around when I was enjoying those. But now it's pretty cool that they're doing this. It's sort of like baseball and 4th of July, or baseball and Memorial Day, where you get a lot of those extra all day, a lot of eyeballs on them. So I think it's very, very cool. But to answer your question, no, I don't remember this for basketball this large, with literally nine games going off before 5 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I mean 11 a.m. here on the West Coast, so it's going to be nice to wake up tomorrow and hit the ground running with some slates. So, but yeah, I mean, point guard, looking at it here, the obvious suspects at top, Harden and Westbrook. Harden has come down to earth a little bit the last couple games. He is 11K now. I mean, just recently he was 13K, if I'm not mistaken. I think 3 games ago. So, uh, are people willing now to pull the trigger? Is this a situation where, since he has struggled, what does the consensus of the field do? Is he going to be highly owned on a 9-game slate? I would say if he's low owned, I would probably like him more here against OKC, 11K. But if he's going to be high owned, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass on it. I think I'd probably go to Westbrook, who is 9,800, save the 1,200. Westbrook's been playing pretty well, even though Harden's been on the floor as well. Back-to-back games, 60-plus DK points. A lot of time on the floor, 40-plus minutes as well. So for me, I would rather have Westbrook against Harden, looking at the top. Trae Young at 9,500. I was wondering if they've played Toronto this year because of Fred VanVleet. And as we know, Fred VanVleet does play some good defense. Just realized that Trae Young dropped 64 DK points on them in their first meeting against Toronto. So that's something to at least just be interested in regards to his price point, 9,500. We know he's definitely capable of scoring a lot and potentially, getting assists and rebounds as well. But other than that, though, as far as these guys 9K and above, Ben Simmons is getting expensive. Obviously, he's had a lot more to do as far as his role with Embiid off the floor. He's having to score more as well. So this is why it's an indicator of his price going up. Brooklyn is a good matchup for him. But as he continues to creep, it's really going to be hard for him to get to that 45, 50 point, plus mark that we need him to get based on his price point being over 9K. So of those guys, I would say I like Westbrook the most of those guys 9K and above.
All right. You reminded me there back to back when you mentioned Westbrook. We have 4 teams on the second half of a back to back. All 4 teams that played on Sunday are playing on Monday. That would be Miami, San Antonio, Indiana, and Denver. Nobody playing on Monday plays on Tuesday because there is just one game on Tuesday, and it is the Clippers at Dallas. And then Wednesday we get, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10. Did I count right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 games. Thursday we get 3 games, and then we head into Saturday with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So, or Friday with 10, sorry. And then Saturday's a weird one with just 4. So we're back to the peaks and valleys of the NBA schedule. Not sure what's bringing that on, but just know that there's going to be a random little dip there, a little lull on Tuesday after all this fun here on Monday. A couple things I did want to point out, which will be good to find out on the DFS strategy show. That one is going to be at a special time tomorrow. I believe it is going to be at noon. Let me verify that. But I want to hear what Adam has to say. We've got one game under our belt here with Jeff Teague rejoining Atlanta, and I'm just curious to see how that is going to impact potentially Trae Young. How many minutes do we think that Teague will have alongside Young, and how many will they be separate, etc. But let me get over here to our schedule. So the Monday strategy show is going to be Josh Engelman back from vacation with Laffy. That will be at noon. We will have the deeper dive. That will be at 5:30. That will be Laffy and Adam. And then at 6:30, we will have Josh and Chris Baggs doing the Monday show. And I think somewhere Fast Eddie Fierce fitting in. But you'll have to see when that schedule is announced for Monday. But don't be shocked when you tune in at the usual 9:30 time and there's no DFS strategy show. That will be taking you into the first of the locks here on Monday. As we kind of cruise through the lower end of the pricing sheet here, some guys I do find interesting. Darius Garland at 5,000 going against New York. That is a decent matchup there for him. You've got Ish Smith going against Detroit. The reason I'm pointing out Ish is his price has come back down to 5,200. We should see Bradley Beal. This is going to be the first game of the day. It's that 2:00 game, but Bradley Beal is back, and we're seeing a bit of a price reduction for a lot of the guys. Isaiah Thomas has been playing poorly and not getting the extra minutes or the extra run, but one injury we want to find out more about is Jordan McRae, who's been dealing with a sore ankle. So if he's out, that definitely helps out Ish Smith. A couple other guard injuries that we have. Drew Holiday is questionable. He's going to be a game time decision. He's missed, about a week now, but he's got an elbow injury, so he has missed. He has not played since January 4th. Goodness, that's been almost 2 weeks now. So we'll have to see if he's going to be back. And then the other injury is Austin Rivers dealing with a sore thumb. May or may not play. He's well down the rotation there for Houston, and then we know that Westbrook is going to be in for this one, so it's not like we have to go deep into that bench, but those are just some call outs there. As we move on over to the shooting guard spot here, Chris, up at the top, Jimmy Butler is on the back-to-back, but it gets an intriguing matchup against Sacramento. You have Bradley Beal, whom I mentioned there, he's at 73. It's all about the minutes for him. I do not think we're going to see him with more than 25, 27-ish minutes until he gets a little healthier. Once he's healthy, I don't think we're going to see him much over 30, 32 for the rest, at least until the All-Star break. Washington learned its lesson. No need to burn him out in what is going to be a lost season without John Wall. What do you like here with the two guards?
Yeah, looking at the top, I mean, obviously Harden's so much more expensive than any of these guys, but I guess the real question is, I mean, can we fit in Levine, Butler, these AK range guys, but have so much upside? Levine just had a really good game, comeback win against Cleveland, he dropped 68.5 DK points. But I do like these two guards at the shooting guard position. Gilgeous-Alexander, his price is starting to creep up a little bit. I'd rather pivot to another shooting guard for this team, and Schroeder. I like his price point just a little bit better. He's getting a lot of minutes off the bench. I mean, he is the sixth man of this team. I do love the fact that of how many shots he is getting up, and in this matchup, it bodes him well. Fast pace and something where I feel like definitely Houston at home has a great advantage where I think they'll be playing from behind, and I think that helps Schroeder in a lot of sense. Markel Fultz, man, I gotta be honest with you. He is a different breed now. This new change of scenery has really opened up his game. He's really confident. He's now playing over the 30-minute benchmark, and I mean, he's taking a lot of shots. I think the last, if I'm looking right here, last 5 games over double-digit shot attempts in every single game. Put up 55 DK points against the Lakers not too long ago. But at 6,300, I like him. And as long as DJ Augustine's out, I think it's something to make sure to consider that, you know what, I don't mind him whatsoever, because with Augustine off the floor, he's getting a huge usage rate without him. Colin Sexton, I think, is someone else who's interesting. He's 6,100, but he's been playing some great ball, man. And the only thing that he lacks a little bit is on the defensive end. But, he's a great three-point shooter. He's aggressive. He's 6,100. He's going to be at home against New York. Now, I do like also the other guard in this play. RJ Barrett is out. So Elfrid Payton, we didn't mention him at the point guard position, but I do like him as well. I believe he is really cheap, actually. He's 5,300. With RJ Barrett out, there's really not much of a contest with Frank Nicolina coming off the bench, but Elfrid Payton will get you 30-plus minutes. I think there's more shot attempts there now with RJ Barrett off the floor. And Elfrid Payton has not only double-double potential, but he's someone who can get rebounds, who can get assists. So I really do like him there. But heading back over to shooting guard, other than that, though, I mean, as we get down here, Eric Gordon doesn't really that with Westbrook and Hart on the floor. I really don't like Eric Gordon. Thibault is someone who's interesting. I don't know if you've seen, but over the last few games, he's just played really well. He's got an uptick in minutes, but he's been playing great defensively. He's a long wing, and he could stretch the floor. It's more so beneficial for FanDuel, but I mean, as someone who's a cheap punt who can get you 25, potentially 27 DK points if you're looking to pay up in other areas, I do like Matisse Thybulle as someone who's interesting of a contrarian play.
Yeah, he is. Thibault is shooting guard, small forward on DK at 4,400, small forward on FanDuel at 4,200, shooting guard only on Yahoo at $10 at the minimum. There, you want to remember that you do get 3 points for blocks and steals on Yahoo and FanDuel. I believe they're just 2.5 on DK, but you get 3.5 for 3-pointers. Thibault is actually a decent shooter. He was in college. He just has not taken a lot of shots in his time in the pros. His last 6 games, 5, 7, 4, 8, 4, 4. Those are his field goal attempts. It's like he's quarterbacking for the San Francisco 49ers with those attempts. See what I did there? Bring it all back full circle. But Thibault is someone I like that one. He's kind of interesting now that he's in that starting lineup. That guarantees his minutes floor. He'll have to do the rest. Fred VanVleet had an amazing return after missing 5 games with a hamstring injury. Had a career-high 7 3-pointers, played 28.5 minutes, scored 29 points, 4 steals on his way to 48 fantasy points. That was against Minnesota. He is a good option today against Atlanta. He is someone that I like, but they've said they're going to keep him around 30 minutes just to get him back and healthy because they have designs on going deep into the playoffs. So he's someone I think is solid, not spectacular. And then Kevin Huerter, another guy who I think is interesting there for Atlanta. I'm curious to see. He probably is going to lose the backup point guard minutes to Jeff Teague. In the only game with Teague, he did get the start. He played just 24 minutes. He was not in foul trouble. He only had 2 points. So be careful with that one, even if he's starting. That makes the Atlanta situations a little bit unsettled.
Why would they do that?
I would my guess. I don't have a good guess. I was gonna say something. Well, if something happens to Young or they decide to give him a day off on a back-to-back, etc., because they're not going anywhere this year, we've seen how their team just completely falls apart if they don't have him to run the offense. He's not great on defense, so that really doesn't matter here or there. But if he's not there on offense, they're an absolute disaster. Having Teague around helps them out. It was, I think, it was also a bit of a salary relief in that 3-way trade there. So this was more. They were more interested in getting a backup that could run the show. And I mean, Teague's effectively a starting point guard, but they need someone to take pressure off of Trae Young just a little bit and help his development a little more. But how they employ him, I don't know, and that's the hard part. Because if I'm Teague, I'm not really going to be excited to be playing. Now I'm on my second team that's not going to be going to the playoffs, and I'm playing 20 minutes a night. That's kind of boring. So I could see him pushing, for 25 minutes, playing alongside of Trae Young as well, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, good God, he was displaced basically by Shabazz Napier of all people with Minnesota. So I don't know. It just seemed like a weird trade for me. From that standpoint, other than it gives them a little insurance so their team doesn't completely implode if something happens to Trae Young, and they can still keep developing Collins and Huerter and Bembry and those other guys. Just my guess. Looking down at the bottom of the price list here, getting us back on track. Ben McLemore at 4,300 on DK, always a fine spot. You've got Michael Carter-Williams, who is healthy again. You're going to see a decent price tag on him. Just be careful. He's going against Charlotte. Charlotte plays at a slower pace. Even though they're garbage with defensive efficiency, they can tend to swallow up guards. It is the front court, the opposing front courts, that usually do a lot of the damage against them. Let's see. Nobody else really popping here. Anybody else you like in the bargain bin here?
No, not too much.
Joe Harris, 3,800. Why? Because he
He,
has not topped 25 fantasy points in his last 6 games. That's why. Okay.
yeah, I mean, Joe Harris, I mean, he'll get you a couple rebounds, but you really need him to hit down threes. I mean, that's really the only value. He was taking, and I think this was before Karis LeVert came back, but he was taking a lot more shots than what we're seeing now. I think Karis LeVert is eating into his usage. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't like him at 3,800.
Yeah.
Maybe Furkan Korkmaz. He's been just a lot more active with Embiid gone. He's taken a lot more shots, but if you look at his last 3 games, Emac, 13 shot attempts, 11 and 12, and he's shooting quite a few from 3-point range, and he's actually hitting them. So he is somewhat of a dart throw, but 15, 24, and 17 raw points scored the last 3 games. Shot looks good. Saw his game against Chicago. He looked really good. He was aggressive. They allowed him to keep shooting. So I guess just something to take into consideration with Embiid off. These other guys are getting some more action here on the floor.
All right. Brandon Ingram, just keep in your thoughts that Drew Holiday may come back. He is 8,800, but gets a nice matchup here against Memphis. Over their last 15 games, they aren't leading the league in pace anymore, but they're only three possessions behind the league leaders. Or pardon me, for defensive rating, they're 3 points per 100 away from being the worst team in the league, and they are 2 possessions away from being the fastest team in the league. So that bodes well there for the Pelicans. Pelicans are fifth fastest team over the last month. So this one could be a little bit of a barn burner there. As we cruise down the pricing list, Aaron Gordon kind of intriguing there. Going against Charlotte, there are some rebounding opportunities in that against that front court, and then Marcus Morris. I always thought it was Markieff was the better player. This season, it's definitely been Marcus. He should be back in the starting lineup. He was out for 5 games with a sore or some sort of neck injury or clavicle or cervical issue, the neck bone, if you will. So I'm interested in him for some savings at 5,600. After that, we got a lot of question marks. You've got Danilo Gallinari, who was out on Saturday with rest. He's going to be coming back. He's at 6,600 going against Houston. That's a nice one. You have Josh Richardson, who's seen his price tick up. Tougher matchup there against Brooklyn. He's kind of the fourth guy amongst the remaining Philadelphia guys with Embiid out. I liked it better when he was about $1,000 cheaper. But if we're looking for some discount love here, Terrence Ross, 5,400, going to be getting some shots up against Chicago there, and then all the way down to Reggie Bullock at 4,400. He should be back in the starting lineup. He had missed 1 game, came back, was in the starting lineup alongside. Oh, let me see here. The usual crowd there for the Knicks, but he had 34 minutes, 25 fantasy points. But I do like him at his current price point, so he's placeholder value. What do you like as we finish up this position?
I love the Aaron Gordon call. He's cheap. And I mean, this is kind of a good matchup for him. Norman Powell's been playing really well. And I must say, I mean, even at 6,100, if he's going to continue to do what he's doing, I don't mind it. I think this game also, he'll probably get a little bit more time on the floor. I think Toronto does business here in Atlanta. But I mean, if he's going to get his 30 minutes, he's going to take 15, 17 shots, and he's going to be aggressive. They're not great against wings and shooting guards. So I mean, I'll take it at 6,100. I definitely like him there. Gallinari, he's 6,600. Just someone I would maybe look at. Now with him being healthier, he's having a lot more time on the floor, and he's becoming a legitimate scoring threat now for the Thunder yet again. Kind of looking like his old self from the Clippers. So when he's like this, he's 6,600. I think definitely you should take a look at him. And then as we move down, Marcus Morris Sr., he's always someone who you can plug in. Definitely has that 30, 35 point capability. OG Anunoby, the OG, his minutes have came down. But there was a couple games over the last 4 or 5 games where he kind of got into a groove. He took double-digit shot attempts. This matchup, I'm not sure if I feel comfortable paying 55 for him, considering if Norman Powell's at 61. Rather just pay up for Norman Powell there. I loved your call on T. Ross. Definitely don't mind him coming off the bench. he just needs to make more shots. That's it. He's taking enough shot attempts, but he's just not shooting good, especially from 3-point range right now. So I mean, if he could just get that up, I mean, we could see that normal 30, 35 point DK average. And I mean, at 5,400, yeah, I don't mind that either. But the rest of the guys, as we go on even more, I mean, Karis LeVert, he's 4,600. Still getting that minute restriction, but he's definitely someone who can pop off. He's definitely someone who can get 30 fantasy points, no doubt. Other than that, though, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Josh Hart, you can consider at 4,400, but I'm not liking too much of this position, UMac.
Yeah, I do like the Norman Powell with Fred Van Vliet getting kind of capped around 30 minutes. That's going to leave another 7 minutes out there. And I think the other thing that's nice about Powell is he gets to go with the second unit, and he's kind of doing a little bit of everything. So I think that's valuable. Going on to power forward here, up at the top, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo. This will be the fourth and final time that the Bucks square off with Chicago. Giannis has averaged 32 minutes in the prior 3 games against Chicago, 57 DK points. Does that sound good? Well, guess what? It's actually 2 DK points below his season average. He's averaging 59 fantasy points per game on 30 points per game, 12.8 rebounds, 5.5 assists. Pretty impressive. This is a game at home. Let's see if we have the projections or the Milwaukee favored by 14. It's going to be tough to go to Giannis, but I just did want to point out those amazing numbers there. We hit on Brandon Ingram. Watch for Drew Holiday coming back. Kevin Love actually did play on the back-to-back Friday and Saturday. He played 34 minutes in both those games. We should expect to see something similar in this matchup against New York. This will be, let me see here, the second time he has faced New York, but I like him going against their front court. Zion Williamson, I don't know why they have him listed as questionable. They've said he's doubtful / won't be out until, let's see, probably another.
It's this. I think it's next week against San Antonio, if I'm not mistaken, on national
Yep.
TV. I think it's the 25th, right?
Yep, that sounds right. I was going to say it's at least another week away. So don't get excited just because you see the questionable tag instead of the out tag. But he's coming back, but it's going to be a little while. Up here at the top, a few guys we haven't talked about. What do you like amongst Siakam, Harris, Randall, Kevin Love, etc., etc.?
I don't know if I'm willing to pay this price for Siakam until I start seeing some more consistency from him. It's not just him not playing enough minutes. It's just the fact that he's just not doing much. At 7,500, there's just no shot I'm going to go ahead and pay that. I'd rather have Norman Powell. I'd even rather pay for Fred VanVleet, to be honest with you here. But yeah, Pascal Siakam, I'm just going to go ahead and pass on that. Tobias, I think, is too much as well. I'd rather have Ben Simmons in this case. Yeah, Tobias, plays a ton of minutes, but he's just not hitting value. He's had one game over the last, 5 or 6 games where he was able to get out of that 30 fantasy point range. But at 7,600, I mean, if he's just getting 30, 35 fantasy points, it just really doesn't make sense, especially on a 9-game slate. So I think here, Gallinari, we talked about, obviously I can consider him at the power forward position. We have Aaron Gordon here too at this thing. But Jaren Jackson Jr., he's 6,200. I like the matchup for him a little bit against New Orleans. So I think that's someone to consider. But man, as we go down, I think Luke Cornett's probably going to be an option. I wouldn't be surprised, even though he's only going to play 23, 25 minutes maybe. But he's 5,200. I can see people going there. But as I look at this, I'm not going to lie, Mag, this is not my favorite position on this 9-game slate. Marvin Bagley at 5,400, if he plays, he's got the Q tag on him. I don't mind going there. It seems like they're kind of giving him more minutes now too. He's starting to play into the 30-minute range. But he took 19 shots the night before against Utah. So if his shots are up there too, I mean, I think that's a steal at 5,400 above any guy above the 5K range. But as we get down there, man, yeah, I'm not liking anything, man. Do you see anything down in the 4K range or below that even gives you interest?
Brandon Clark, 4,900 going against the Pels. Wouldn't hate that one, but that's really it. We not to fear with 9 games on this slate. we should have additional news. We've got Q tags against Markkinen, Nemanja Bjelica. You mentioned Bagley, Derek Favors, Horford. I mean, all of a sudden, if Horford's out, we're excited for Tobias Harris, etc. Just using that as an example. But Sacramento is going into Miami, tough opponent there, but Miami's on a back-to-back. So these are the little things where we'll find some wiggle room here and there. Moving on to the center position to wrap things up, I just want to remind everybody that if you have not yet signed up for Osmo, you can do so by using the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, and get 50% off any 1 week package. Over here at the center position, Andre Drummond going against Washington. Is he going to be motivated? We shall see, but he did against Atlanta in 27 minutes have 16 points and 17 rebounds. Prior to that in Boston, he played 38 minutes, had 13 points, 13 boards, 7 assists. In his last 3 games, he has had, 6 combined block steals, 4 combined block steals, 5 combined blocks steals, doubled in every single one of them. I think I like him against Washington. You have Clint Capella going against Steven Adams. I'm not excited for that matchup. I'd kind of like to stay away from both of those guys, but I do like the multi-position eligibility there on Julius Randle. And then as we cruise on down the list here, a lot of question tags here, or an out tag. So nothing really exciting below. Maybe a Jonas Valanciunas at 7,100 going against the Pelicans for the first time this season. What do you got here wrapping us up? And then I'll pull up some Yahoo $10 baller recommendations.
Yeah, I do want to mention, I just want to say Christian Wood, I think, is somewhat interesting at 4,300 at Washington. I think he's a little bit more healthier now. I know that he had some stuff going on with his knee, but prior to that knee injury, he would play 2 games in a row, 26 minutes each against New Orleans and Chicago. He got 41 and 47 DK points in just 26 minutes. So last game he played 16 against Atlanta, dropped 27 DK points at 4,300. I don't know. This matchup kind of fits him well. And Washington does struggle, and then with the up-paced game like that, more possessions, I like him there. But I'm going into center. This is a little bit more different than compared to power forward. I like a lot of these guys. I love Capella and Vooch, 81 and 8,400 respectively, both in really good matchups. So I don't mind either of those two. Drummond's 9,600. He's under the 10K mark, so I feel like this is a bargain. This is a great matchup for him as well. Speaking of Christian Wood, I mean, Andre Drummond here. The only thing is, I don't know if you saw it, Emac, but there has been twice down the last few games where they were in a game and Andre Drummond sits the entire fourth quarter and doesn't play overtime as well. Now, I don't know if that's speculation because maybe, he might get traded or they just want to make sure he doesn't get injured. But there has been a couple games where they haven't played him as much, and there's no rhyme or reason, wasn't in foul trouble. So it's just something to take consider. I don't know what's going on with that, but just keep in mind. Siakam is a no-go for me, like I mentioned earlier. Valanciunas, I like 7,100. I don't mind him, especially if he gets over 30 minutes. This is a great matchup for him as well. So him and Jaren Jackson, just look out for those two guys because New Orleans does suffer against bigs. And then I think Adams and Thompson at 6,500 and 6,400. I like those options as well. But as we go down there even more, there's a lot of injured guys are in the 5K range, so just be mindful of that. And other than that, though, at a first look, there's not too many guys I want to say as far as I like in the lower cost range outside of maybe Larry Nance Jr. and Christian Wood.
All right, a couple $10 ballers. We already mentioned Matisse Thybulle that we like. He is 10 even on Yahoo. Dante DiVincenzo, he is 4,100 on DK, 42 on FanDuel, 10 on Yahoo. I want to call him out because he is over his last 6 games averaging 23 minutes and 25 fantasy points. That's helpful. He may get a little bit of extra run there against Chicago if there is some mop-up duty. I think we can consider... we mentioned Terrence Ross, 11 on Yahoo. That's by far the best pricing of the 3 main sites. You've got $10 for Ben McLemore. I'm okay with him even with Russell Westbrook back. He and Eric Gordon are kind of the two trustworthy guys of the understudies. It's Daniel Haas Jr. and others that are losing the minutes and shot attempts. So I like those guys. And then one guy we didn't mention, I do want to call him out, Derrick Rose. 7,200 on DK, 7,000 on FanDuel, 25 on Yahoo. He's in the first game of the day. So if you're playing on the short slates on FanDuel and Yahoo, or you're playing the DK first of the two main slates, give him some consideration. We know that it doesn't matter if he's going to start or not. He is going to get 30 to 31 minutes. If it's a competitive game, he may get a few more, but we don't have to worry about him getting in that. He's moved beyond that 26 to 28 minute range, especially with no Blake Griffin and a few other injuries that they have suffered. So Adam and I talked about this a fair amount on the strategy show this weekend, and he had said that he's just plugging him in for his baseline projections at 30 because he thinks that's fair, and he's been relatively efficient. I like the efficiency continuing because this is an island game for them, and it's the Wizards. They're not that good at defense, so definitely consider that. Don't forget to look at any of the cash building blocks articles. You will see at the very bottom there will be a section talking on how you can get $30 on Yahoo Sports or Yahoo Fantasy with your initial DFS deposit. They'll match up to your first $30 in YSRPs. Those are Yahoo Sports Rewards points, and they are available for immediate use into any contest. Chris, any final thoughts as we dip on out of here?
No, man. Wow. There's going to be so many slates tomorrow. I'm excited. And I'll thanks for pointing out that Yahoo contest, man. I'm gonna actually sign up for it tonight.
It is up to 2,000 of the 5,000. So from when we started until now, it's gotten 300 people. So once you hear this, please go sign up because that one's gonna be filling fast.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So yeah, they have two slates tomorrow. So they have that one and they have another one, the other baller. It's a smaller one, but I mean, that one has 2K to first as well. So, yeah, great tournaments on Yahoo. Thank you to our sponsor, and I'm looking forward to playing over there tomorrow.
All right. With that, gamers, you can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Randone. I am at EMACDFS, and it is, of course, Osmo_COM. Good luck, gamers.